Have you ever made a painting that you really loved so much that you tried to recreate it? That's what I did this week. So I had painted a large canvas in landscape format, and it just came together in a way that really felt alive. Colors, the marks, and the mood, and everything just worked. So I thought I would try the same thing again in my square art journal. I didn't use the exact same color combination, but it was almost the same. And I did try to capture that same energy. And you know what? It turned out okay, but it didn't have that same spark. So why try to recreate it? Honestly, I already knew that it wouldn't have the same feeling to it, so I wasn't expecting that from it. There were, however, two reasons that I did it anyway. One, I wanted to explore a similar color combination because I love these colors and I was really excited to just play with them. And secondly, I wanted to show you something that I've learned through experience. Because when you're painting expressively, even copying yourself doesn't really work. You can match the shapes or the palette or even the idea, but the emotion and the energy and the essence, that only happens when you're present and connected in the moment. And that's just something that can't be repeated like a recipe or something. So what happened with the second painting? At this point, I was still able to work freely. I was only concentrating on the shapes and still feeling kind of relaxed in my process. And as you'll see, as the video progresses, the painting looked fine, but it did feel way more controlled, like every painting does when we try to do what's right instead of what we feel. And that is what changes everything in a painting. So this is what happens when you're trying to copy others or trying to repeat something that you've made yourself that has worked before. You stop listening, you stop playing, and the painting just loses its spontaneity. Every single move you make becomes more about control than it does about curiosity. So what does this really mean? For me, this was one of those lessons that taught me so much about expressive painting. Because your best work isn't something that you can force. It just happens when you're open and present and when you're not chasing a result or someone's approval. And trying to copy what worked before definitely takes you out of that space. Even though you can't recreate the magic in a painting, you can keep creating space for that magic to happen again and again. And all you need to do is to set aside time and create from an honest part of yourself. This is so easy to forget when we're in the middle of a painting because we get caught up in wanting everything to work and wanting everything to look good. The thing is, expressive painting wants so much more from us. It wants us to be honest and to stay connected to ourselves, even when things feel messy or uncertain. And that kind of honesty is where real growth happens and where your real art is going to come from. So I guess this is where the magic started to fade in my painting. One of the first things that I noticed was that I was starting to concentrate more and more on what the first painting looked like. And I let myself move more and more away from what I was feeling. And before I knew it, I was in my head telling myself that I was never going to be able to recreate what I had already made. From there, things only got worse because I started adding things that I didn't like and that didn't look right to me. All right, so let me give you a quick overview of what my original painting looked like compared to what my new one looks like. So as you can see, there's a big gap between the new and the old painting. Not only is the format causing me problems, but the bottom is way off. So that's when my instincts kick in and I decide to try and work more freely, hoping that I can save the painting. All right, I'm going to put on some music and just let you watch the rest of this messy process. And I'll be back towards the end with some thoughts. even though the second version didn't land the way I hoped, I still learned something. The color combination was interesting, and it kind of opened the door to something new. So copying yourself and others is a natural part of the learning process. It's just that at some point you need to let go of it, because otherwise you're only going to create paintings that have no emotion in them. And in the end, that's what we want our viewers to feel, right? We want people to feel something when they look at our art. All right, so now you know your most honest. All right, so now you know your most honest work comes from when you're painting to express and not to impress. And that's the space that I want to keep coming back to, and that I want you to keep coming back to as well. So if this resonates, I would love to hear your thoughts. So leave me a comment and let me know what you've experienced in your own work. Keep showing up, keep growing, and keep chasing what feels real. I'll see you next week. Bye.